Hi, I'm David Van Slyke. I'm a professor of public administration and dean of the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University. On the 50th anniversary of the Minnowbrook Conference, the Maxwell School is convening a series of discussions with scholars and practitioners from all around the world about the future of our discipline. We began by going back to the place where it all started, to the shores of Blue Mountain Lake, where Dwight Waldo famously challenged the Academy to better respond to the social and political turmoil of the 1960s. We know that Minnowbrook holds a special place in the hearts of those who love public administration, and we want to engage each of you in the dialogue of our future. Please join us.
This is a critical time for the field of public administration, not just in the United States and around the world.
We have 2 million federal employees, 90% of which say the work they do is important. 96% are willing to put in additional effort. I'd love to find ways to make it a little bit easier for them.
I think in the last decade, public administration has dramatically changed. We're in a time of historical challenges to basic democratic institutions that we hadn't ever imagined a decade ago. And so it's particularly critical for our field to consider what we know and how we might really leverage that knowledge to help people in these institutions become more effective, to show the effectiveness that they have, and really focus on demonstrating the public value that's essential to the bedrock of democracy.
The role of academics in schools of public policy is more important today than ever, as globally governments are struggling to be more relevant and becoming more constrained in terms of resourcing, and the dynamics of the environment are changing.
I think the first issue that I would think that is a big issue for public service professionals in particular is the interface between the public and the bureaucracy, or the public and the government. And I think within that, issues that are particularly important include issues of service provision, service appraisal, service delivery, all as it relates to equitable provisions of these types of services.
One thing I've noticed that is different about this Minnowbrook is the discussion of public administration as an integrator, as an integrative field. So how can we create radical change and once we started talking about it, there was this reality check that we are small. We are a relatively young discipline, and so our strength lies in being the bridge builder, the collaborator, reaching out to other disciplines, and adding our own theory and research, rather than being sort of a standalone powerhouse.
I think that at the last Minnowbrook and before, there was advocacy for more multidisciplinarity, and I think we've begun to achieve that. We're advocating now that we have to really become seriously more integrative in the interdisciplinary nature of our field.
I think inclusiveness and social equity has been another dominant theme, but also thinking about that in a much more expansive way. So we're thinking about concepts of intersectionality, marginalization, oppression, and the role of both our government institutions, as well as the responsibilities of public administrators, researchers, and practitioners to make sure that we continue to advance the democratic ideals that are contained in our Constitution.
We're not just scholars, but we have to be scholar activists. We have to be scholar alert, however we want to phrase it. We have to do something ourselves, but also encourage others to do something. How do we create a culture within the Academy that will allow those who follow us to also take up the baton to keep advancing some of the issues that we face?
One of the biggest challenges we have in setting the standards and talking about the field is that the state is no longer the center of gravity. We have many of our graduates going into nonprofit. We have them going into international. We have students coming from overseas going back overseas when they're done.
One of our major concerns is the pipeline into government. How do we attract people, talented people, into government service? And we've seen the interest in serving in government decline remarkably. And that's a real concern for us.
So I think there's kind of an intellectual crisis that a lot of our students are feeling, that faculty are feeling right now, particularly in a political climate where the public service is seen as being a bad thing instead of being actually a critical part of our democracy. We try to inspire them that now is the time when you should be pursuing a degree in public affairs for the very reasons you're articulating, that you're feeling uncomfortable. That's why we need you now.
And I also think we need to be more globally inclusive. The international public administration community, such as it is really only limited to a very small handful of countries. Less than 10 tend to dominate public administration at the moment, and we really need to broaden the tent.
It has been very rejuvenating and exciting to see just how in many areas we are on the same page, and other areas that we still have to keep working on, and that convergence even isn't necessarily a requirement, that diversity in the field is really good as well.
We have 50 scholars here and practitioners that if there was agreement on anything, I would be surprised. I think a dialogue and a discussion is healthy and it pushes all of us. So I would be disappointed if we all agreed on anything.
I hope that this conference has an impact, not just for those who will listen to, but to even a broader audience than what we originally anticipated.
The conference has been great. We have talked about a lot of new and sustained continuing issues in public administration. We've surfaced a lot of tensions in the field, and we're really hoping to continue this conversation beyond our weekend here at Minnowbrook. There's not enough time for scholars and practitioners to have meaningful conversations, and we hope more people will join in those conversations online, on the website, and at various panels and conferences.